Have you ever felt incapable for years and then discovered that the problem was never you? That you were just being measured by the wrong ruler? This is not about overcoming something. This is not about finally fixing what was broken. This is about recognizing that maybe it was never broken. This is a pattern that happens when the environment only recognizes one type of functioning. You don't fit that type, and you learn to call this personal failure. This is not imposter syndrome. This is not common low self-esteem. This is when you spend years thinking you are incapable because no one gave you the vocabulary to understand that you just function differently. There is a name for this. And no, it is not what you are thinking. When you are a child, you do not think something is wrong with you. You think you are not very good at this thing everyone else seems to do easily, like in school. Everyone seems to be following an invisible line. They know where the lesson is going. They know what matters. They know what to write down. And you do not know. Not because you are not paying attention, but because your attention works differently. While the class moves forward, your mind moves sideways. You stare at the wall. You drift into ideas, images, thoughts that feel vivid and alive but completely disconnected from what is on the board. You cannot copy fast enough. You cannot hold on to instructions for long. When you understand one thing, the class has already moved on to the next, and no one explains what this means. When no one explains, children explain things to themselves. You do not think you are different. You think you are incapable. Why does this happen? Because this belief does not arrive dramatically. It does not come from a single moment. It settles quietly. It becomes a background assumption. Something you carry without questioning. It is like software running in the background that you do not even know is installed. And it works like this. When adults do not understand a child, the child usually assumes the fault is theirs. This is not because adults have bad intentions. It is because they only know one type of ruler. The environment rewards one type of attention, one speed of processing, one way of organizing thoughts. And if you do not match it, no one has vocabulary for that. So it is easier to call it distraction or laziness or lack of effort. And eventually you learn to call it that too. The problem was not intelligence. It was fit. But when you are a child, you do not know that fit is a variable. You only know that it does not work. And you assume the problem is you. This pattern of recognition deficit appears in 3 versions. Academic version. A teacher gives you the opportunity to do theater. No diagnosis involved, no explanation. No attempt to fix you. Just space to exist differently. In that space, thinking does not have to be linear. Attention does not have to be quiet. Expression matters more than precision. And for the first time, you do not feel smarter. You feel visible. That experience did not change who you were. It changed how you saw yourself. Nothing about your mind improved. The context did. Adult version with late diagnosis. Years later, you learn about ADHD or autism or dyslexia or any neurological pattern, and it does not rewrite your childhood. It reorganizes it. It does not add a label to your identity. It removes a misunderstanding. Behaviors that seem like personal failures start to make sense as patterns that simply had not been named yet. For many adults, especially those over 40, learning about neurodivergent conditions does not feel like discovering something new. It feels like finally understanding something old. Not because the condition suddenly appeared, but because the language to describe it arrived late. Retrospective version. You look back. You see that child. And you realize she never needed to be fixed. She never needed to try harder. She never needed to pay more attention. She just needed to be seen by someone who understood that different does not mean deficient, and no one saw. So she saw herself the way the world saw her. Incomplete. And here is the plot twist. Some patterns exist long before we know how to name them. And when something finally has a name, it stops feeling like a flaw. It becomes context. What you called incapacity for years was not incapacity. It was learning in a world that only recognized one way of learning. And you internalized that mismatch as failure. But the failure was not yours. It was the recognition system's failure. It is not that you were bad at thinking. It is that you were being evaluated by a type of thinking that was not yours. And when the only available ruler does not measure you correctly, The problem is not you. It is the ruler. But no one gave you another ruler. So you accepted the measurement as truth. This is called recognition deficit. Not cognitive deficit. Not attention deficit necessarily. It is when the environment has a deficit of recognizing how you function. And you, without knowing this, call that deficit yours. Understanding this now does not change the past. But it changes how you look at that child. You stop judging her. And you start standing beside her. And you realize that what seemed like weakness for years was never a lack of ability. It was a lack of recognition. Maybe the question is not why could I not do it? Maybe the question is why could no one see me? Because when you are finally seen, nothing in you changes. But everything about how you understand yourself changes. And if you are that child still, at any age, or if you know that child, maybe she does not need to be different. Maybe she just needs someone who uses the right ruler. Or better yet, who realizes that maybe rulers were never made to measure people. I do not have a solution for this. Only the observation. That recognition does not build ability. It reveals it. And that's sometimes what we need most, is not to change. It is to be seen as we already are. And that may not fix anything. But it can finally explain everything.